What was really interesting this morning was hearing the Director General talk about the three necessary stages to mobilise private sector investment in renewables: openness, transparency and regulatory certainty. And I think I was really heartened to hear that from the podium, because if the transition to renewables, if this massive shift in global energy use is to occur, it can only occur through the mobilisation of very large amounts of private sector investment. And that investment won't happen unless we have the right signals, as it were, from governments that their markets are open to that investment. So I think the opportunities are global. I mean, the publication today of the report on the geopolitics of the energy transition makes that very clear. Every country is going to go through this transition from hydrocarbons to renewable energy, and the private sector will be involved in all of those countries, because that transition can't be delivered unless those countries can mobilise investment either internally or from overseas investment. It is a long-term investment, so it provides both much needed electricity domestically, and the great advantage of renewable energy, of course, it can be built quickly, it's reliable, it's efficient, it's cheap. So it will help bring down the cost of electricity to consumers domestically. It will allow countries to expand, to grow their industries, to develop economically. But at the same time, it provides long-term income to those entities within a country that, for example, want to invest and have to pay pensions or pay long-term investments. So it's very attractive to pension funds, infrastructure funds and the like. So you see private sector involvement from the beginning of the process, from the development of projects right through to the ownership of the asset. And at every stage, the private sector can work with governments to provide both much needed electricity, to provide cheap electricity, but also to provide long-term investment returns to pension funds and investors locally who need those returns in that kind of shape of asset class. I think the Coalition for Action is crucially important because IRENA has created a really effective role in bringing governments together to talk about the best practice for the transition to the new energy future, but that future can't be delivered unless we mobilise very large amounts of private sector investment. So the Coalition brings the private sector to engage with the government, public sector that are here at the IRENA General Assembly. And I think what I'd like to see the Coalition do as we go forward, as we build out its work, is to provide meaningful opportunities for governments to provide best practice to governments as they look to see how to mobilise that investment, and also perhaps to reassure governments that renewable energy is cheap, it's effective, can provide the kind of electricity they want to provide to their citizens and for their industries.